Stephen A., the news again coming in moments ago, Kevin Durant heading to the Golden State Warriors. How are you viewing this move from Durant?
Well, I'm viewing it as the weakest move I've ever seen from a superstar. Plain and simple. That's just how I look at it.
Some breakers are meant to be broken, but wow. I know. I mean, Oscar, woo.
Nope. There's not one guy on this planet who can do it. I think that's one of those records that will never be touched.
I don't think that's going to happen either, not for a whole year.
What Oscar did with the triple-double, and that would never happen ever again. Never in history of the game.
Working off of it. Russell kicks it to the corner. And he's got it! That is the stuff of legends right there. With his 42nd triple-double, Russell Westbrook has broken the single-season record established more than a half-century ago by Oscar Robertson. History rewritten in Denver.
And the winner of the 2017 Kia NBA Most Valuable Player Award is Russell Westbrook.
Your immediate reaction to this trade?
Well, I'm kind of surprised by it, but again, you're talking about a credible general manager in Sam Presti. He's going to prepare for the future. Obviously, they're going to have a lot of faith in Russell Westbrook. But if this is just a one-year rental and Paul George decides to leave, then you're talking about Oklahoma City rebuilding and positioning themselves to do that. And
man, I just got into a zone, got into a comfortable place.
Bottom line is, this dude is a superstar.
Here's George, puts it on the floor, gets past two guys, stuffs it on the freak.
Paul George, man, the assertiveness to attack the freak.
George in the corner, got five, goes to the rim, throws it down, counted and a foul. Well, they traded for Paul George tonight, and they are sending to Oklahoma City essentially a record collection of draft picks, 4 first-round picks, 4 unprotected future first-round picks, a protected future first-round pick, 2 pick swaps, and outstanding rookie point guard Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Danilo Gallinari for Paul George. Paul George came to the Thunder in the last couple of days and asked to be traded to the Clippers. He wanted to play with Kawhi Leonard.
We got to talk about SGA. He's been phenomenal this year, just putting up crazy numbers. He's scoring. Is there any connection there or rivalry between you two?
I love Shai. I love Shai's game. Man, Shai is nice. He's got his own lane. People don't understand. He's bigger than you think. He might look small like on court, but he's like 6'6", bro. He's deceptively quick. He's going to rock you to sleep and then blow by you. Everything is just pace. Slow, fast, fast, slow. You might be in front of him. You might stop him, and then he'll boom, attack you right again.
With the second pick in the 2022 NBA Draft, the Oklahoma City Thunder select Chet Holmgren from Gonzaga University.
The Oklahoma City Thunder have been through a tremendous amount of turnover. In just the last decade, we've gone from Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, and James Harden making the NBA Finals, to Kevin Durant winning an MVP, to Kevin Durant leaving, Westbrook winning an MVP, Paul George joining the team and almost winning an MVP, and then none of those players being on the roster anymore. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of NBA Now. Today we are going to be talking about the Thunder's young core that looks like they could be taking over the NBA in just a few seasons, if not this year. Between the likes of SGA, Chet Holmgren, Jdub, and others, this team is building something special under Sam Presti, and it wouldn't surprise me if this team is in the playoffs and trying to compete. Obviously, we're going to get more into Chet here in a second, but Sam Presti has set up this team with so many moves. When you go back all the way to the Paul George trade, in which he really kind of started his draft pick accumulation, obviously getting tons of value along with SGA in that trade, who has developed into an All-NBA player and one of the best young guards in the league. And now this team having a multitude of young players that look like they could develop into stars, still has by far the most draft picks for the next 5 to 10 years. And who knows, they're probably even going to get more. I mean, it wouldn't shock me. It just seems to be Sam Presti's MO at this point. But with so much talent on the roster, it also leaves a possibility that if any star is disgruntled, OKC can take a shot on them and pair them with all this young talent. And I mean, if you threw 5 or 6 first-round picks at a star that was disgruntled, who's to say that team doesn't say, yeah, you guys can have him. We'll take those picks and start to do what you guys were doing, right? But yeah, more into this roster that they currently have. Obviously, SGA is the leading force, the best player on the team, and by far one of the biggest steals of the last really 5 to 6 years, if not the last decade. He wasn't even a top 10 pick, and he's developed into, like I said, one of the best young guards in the NBA. But somebody that I think people are starting to overlook is Chet. Chet was the number 2 pick last year, obviously drafted behind Paulo Banchero, and you're not going to find a bigger fan of Banchero than me, but Chet might have more potential than Paulo, and Paulo could be the face of the NBA. I mean, give it 5 or 6 years, and we could be looking at Paulo as the face of the NBA, and Chet might actually have more potential than him, which is crazy to think about. A ton of it comes on the defensive end, along with, his offensive potential as well, but he projects to be one of the best defensive centers, if not just players in the league, period. And it's super, super interesting. I mean, he's got the switchability, he's got the interior blocking. Offensively, he can shoot the 3, he can get in the paint, he can make timely passes. Not necessarily an elite playmaker by any means, but I mean, he's a very well all-around player with potential on both sides to be a top-end player easily in this league. Obviously he was injured last summer league, but when we go back to his college stats, he averaged 14, 9, and 2 on 60% from the field, almost 40% from 3, and 70% from the free throw line. And then, when we get to summer league last year, what we saw from him was in 5 games, he averaged 14 points and almost 3 blocks and almost 2 steals per game, along with shooting 42% from 3 and 47% from the field. So he really carried over those stats that he had from college. But he took a big jump this year. Now he played 4 games, but what I really want to focus on is the 2 games in Vegas, because he played 2 in Salt Lake City as well, where he only averaged 12. But when he got to Vegas, he averaged over 20 points per game, 3.5 blocks, a steal per game, 2.5 assists, almost 10 rebounds. Didn't shoot as well from 3. He only shot 16%, but I'd assume that would kick back up just based off of his college numbers and last year's shooting in the summer league. And then 56% from the field. So honestly, he's not going to shoot 10 threes a game, but he could shoot 3 or 4, and it's going to be very, very serviceable. Definitely fits in with the modern NBA. And when you look at this OKC roster, they don't have a ton of bigs. So he's going to get all the playing time that he needs to not only develop, but make an impact right away in what is going to be his rookie season, with him being out all of last year. Now, we can only put so much stock in the summer league, like I said. But something really interesting is over the offseason, or over the season, there's reports that he's put on up to 15 pounds, which is huge because he was drafted at under 200 pounds when he was selected. And since his injury in that Seattle Pro-Am where, we saw him playing against LeBron and such, apparently he's put on 15 pounds, which is huge because he's a super skinny frame guy. Him, Pokuševski, Wembanyama. There's been a plethora of guys that have been entering the league over the last few years that have kind of been that taller, skinny build. But if Chet can kind of put on some more weight and not necessarily get absolutely bodied by Kenny Lofton, then that would be huge for him. And with his shot blocking ability already, if he can, not just get moved out of the way by some of the guys, because obviously the running joke between, him and Wembanyama is, okay, let's put Jokic and Embiid in the post and let them go to work. But I want you to name 5 players for me that could actually, I want you to name 1 player for me that could actually truly stop Jokic or Embiid. I mean, these are 2 MVPs, right? So obviously that's the running joke, but Chet, I mean, it looks like he's going to be competing for Rookie of the Year, and we'll only get into that further. But I do want to dive into some of the other players surrounding Chet and Shai. This team is bringing a lot of guys back. When you look at guys like Obviously, Shea's coming back, but Josh Giddey, he projects that he could be a star. We saw good improvement from him from year 1 to year 2. Up his shooting splits both from the field and from 3, along with upping his shot attempts, averaged more points, going from 12 to 16. And man, he's a playmaker. He's a playmaker. He averaged 6 assists his rookie year, 6 assists this last year. And really, I mean, when you get him in the fast break or, when Shea's not on the court and you kind of let him take over or whatever, he can really run the offense. And now, I'm not going to lie. I did not watch a ton of Oklahoma City Thunder games last year. It's OKC right now. I mean, they didn't even project to make the play-in, which they ended up making last year, but we thought that they were going to be right back at the top 5 of the draft, and that is not the case that happened last year. Now, I watched my fair little bit of, Shea highlights, Jdub highlights, etc., but I did not watch a ton of games, and that's absolutely changing this year. With the addition of Chet and with the addition of some more of their young players in, along with their rookie Cason Wallace, this team's got to be super fun this year, man. Super fun to watch. Tons of potential. I mean, even look at Lou Dort, right? Like, he's only 23, but you don't necessarily consider him the youngest player on this team. He's actually younger than Shea. But like, he's a defensive stopper, man, and he's super fun to watch on the defensive end. He gets after it. Sometimes when you watch OKC, you're like, where's Lou Dort? I just want to watch him play defense. You know what I mean? Because he's such a get after it defender. Kind of in that like Patrick Beverley, Marcus Smart, like get in your face type defender. And he can lock down, man. He can lock down. He's going to be a big piece for him. Now we'll see if his role ends up diminishing. Obviously, he got paid a few years ago because I want to see he was undrafted, really kind of stuck out once he started getting minutes. And so he got paid early. If I'm looking at his contract, he's making about 15 mil this next year. Or sorry, he's making 10 mil this next year. 15. Oh, Chet's making 10. I don't know why I misread that. But yeah, he's making 15 mil this next year. So like I said, he got paid early. So we'll see if he ends up getting moved on from later, just because, I mean, you can only pay so many guys and they have so many picks that maybe they view they can get somebody else in there. But for now, super interesting, super big piece for this team. Jdub, the absolute standout rookie for them last year, the 12th overall pick. He went on to average 14 points per game, 5 rebounds, 3 assists. Shot 50% from the field, 35% from 3, 80% from the free throw line. And man, he's a high flyer, man. He gets up there, he throws it down. Super, super interesting guy to watch. And, when you kind of think about it, I was listening to the Thinking Basketball podcast, and they were talking about how there's really the last 5 to 6 years been these guys that are kind of right out of that top 10 range. You're say 11 to 20, and we've pretty much seen a star produced from every single draft class in that kind of range. Jalen Williams might just be that guy that turns into a star. Now we'll see. Obviously, I think kind of with him and Josh Giddey, I really view them similar potential wise, where, let me put it this way, I think Chet has MVP potential. I don't think that's crazy to say. At least defensive player of the year potential, right? I think Shea right up there, all NBA potential best guard in the league. Well, let me take that back. There's Luka. But yeah, I mean, potential top 3 guard in the league any given year for, I mean, potentially the rest of his career, especially once, this former generation starts to fade away. Now we'll see how long that takes, as obviously a lot of them are phenomenal shooters like Steph Curry and such, and we know that skill carries, but I mean, Shea's going to be phenomenal. But then when I look at Josh Giddey and Jalen Williams, I'm like, so they have star potential, right? I'm not saying that they don't have star potential. But if they get to like a Jamal Murray or an Aaron Gordon type level, where I know Jamal has never made an all-star team. I don't believe Aaron Gordon's ever made an all-star team. But as a Nuggets fan, we don't win the championship without both of them. And they were clearly star players last year. Now it's very hard to make the all-star team in the West. We'll see if Jamal can get it. I'm hoping he can get it this next year. Obviously, though, he steps it up in the playoffs, and it's like he's a completely different animal there. But if Josh Giddey and Jalen Williams can get to that level of complementary star, because I don't think Josh Giddey's going to be better than Shea, and I don't think Jalen Williams is either. And obviously, Chet kind of being the outlier of these, 4 players. it's like your true core of this team. And we'll get into another guy that might be part of that as well. But I mean, he's the only center, so obviously it's different. But the other guys are all about 6'6", 6'7", kind of interchangeable on those wing positions. Obviously, Giddey and Shea are going to play more point guard and such. But I mean, if he can get to that complimentary level, that's a heck of a unit right there between those 4 guys. And I haven't even mentioned some of the other young guys on this team. Between the likes of Pokusevski, who has tons of potential. He hasn't really reached any of it, but he has tons of potential. He's like a 7-foot guy that can stretch the floor, block some shots as well. Now, Chet might just be the actualization of what they hoped Pokusevski was going to be. The other Jalen Williams, decent center. I don't really view him with a ton of potential, but I think he'll be a serviceable big in the league for years, probably. Trey Mann has tons of potential, man. Tons of potential. If he doesn't get the minutes that he deserves here in OKC, which I could see happening, obviously they just drafted another point guard. They have Giddey, they have Shea, etc. I could see him going to another team and really showing up for that team and making a ton happen. I mean, wherever Trey Mann actually gets his opportunity, he's going to thrive. He's a super interesting young player. Played 67 games for him last year. Only averaged about 7 points per game on maybe less than what you wanted shooting splits, about 40-30 shooting splits. And then from the free throw line, he shot 76%. So not exactly your favorite shooting splits, but I think he's got a lot of potential as well. And he's only 21 years old. But that last guy that I was really talking about that might be part of this core is Ousmane Dieng, who that's the guy that they traded 3 first-round picks to the Knicks to go out and draft. Only played 39 games last year, only averaged about 4 points per game. Didn't shoot it great from 3, didn't shoot it great from the field, and didn't shoot it great from free throws. So we'll see if he develops, honestly. He's only 19. Like, he's super young. All these guys are super young. I mean, Shea's the oldest at 24, which is crazy. He'll be 25 this year. But yeah, I mean, super young team. They obviously saw a lot of potential in him. He can be another wing for him. And we'll kind of see if he develops or not. Again, if he doesn't, if I'm OKC, I'm really not too worried about it. Because they have so many picks that those 3 first-round picks were like a penny in a mountain of coins, right? And, between those 4 guys that I listed, Dieng could easily just be the odd man out when it comes to that. But they also took Cason Wallace. Now, they traded back to get Cason Wallace. They traded back from 10 to 12. Or no, I'm sorry. Traded up to get Cason Wallace. I don't know why I thought they traded back. They traded 12 to Dallas, in which they selected Derek Lively. And then OKC moved up and took Bertans' contract, so they moved up to pick 10, in which they took Cason Wallace. Honestly, I'm not as familiar with this draft class as I'd like to normally be. But he's been compared to the likes of Drew Holiday. Looks like he's going to be another stop defender for him. Between him, between Lou Dort, between Chet, I mean, you start to really build this up. It's not like Shea's a bad defender. Giddey's not a terrible defender. Jdub, obviously very athletic, is not a terrible defender or anything like that. I mean, Jdub averaged about a steal and a half last year. Shea as well. Wow, I did not realize Shea averaged a block last year. Shout out to Shea. But yeah, I mean, this team has a lot of defenders. And so, during the regular season, where you might not see some of these other, I guess you could say, contenders necessarily playing as much, this team can steal wins during the regular season. And they already got 40 wins last year without Chet, without Cason Wallace, without a ton of play from Ousmane Dieng. Who's to say that they can't get to 45? And do you know where 45 wins puts them in last year's standings? That puts them as the 4 seed in the Western Conference, which is crazy. There's no way they can't get five more wins. Now, obviously, 45 might not be the 4 seed this year. We'll see. The West being as congested as ever. But, I mean, there's opportunities. I mean, the Grizzlies, Jaw's not playing 25 games. The Kings, I think the second year after that jump will be difficult for them to capture the magic that they had last year necessarily. No, I think there's a ton of players on the Kings, but it'll only be more difficult because people are going to look at them on the schedule and be like, all right, we got to wake up for this game versus, the last 20 years, nobody said that about the Kings. The Suns, obviously, it's a top 3 monster, so how much resting will go on during the regular season? we're not sure, right? How will that bench work? Being deep during the regular season helps a ton. The Clippers always have their injury issues. The Warriors have question marks at center and such. Bringing in CP, different roster changes. The Lakers with LeBron haven't really been a great regular season team the last few years. We'll see if the T-Wolves are a little bit more healthy this year. Same with the Pelicans. The Mavs kind of get that same testament. But yeah, I mean, the Trailblazers you expect to probably go down in wins, and they only had 33. I'd expect the Rockets to try and get more, but I look at a lot of these young teams at the bottom of the West, and it's like, yeah, I think the Spurs are going to get more with Wemby. Yeah, I think the Rockets will get more. They have a better coach. They brought in vets, etc. But somebody's got to lose wins, and I mean, my Nuggets were at the top with 53 wins, which isn't outstanding. There was a point in time where in the Western Conference, 53 wins was the 8 seed, right? So it's obviously not that point in time, but it's very congested, and easily the Thunder could sneak into the playoffs easily after making the play-in last year. And I think there's some teams out east that are gonna drop a lot of wins. I definitely think the West has more talent, and you look at the likes of the Hawks, who have question marks. The Raptors are kind of a question mark for the regular season. Just brought in a new coach. The Bulls are pretty much running it back. They still have injuries. The Wizards should probably be worse. They don't have Bradley Beal anymore. The Hornets I don't expect to be fantastic. And obviously, I mean, I hate to say it, but there's always injuries throughout the league, right? So some team that was good last year probably won't be that good this year. It happens every year. So I definitely think this Thunder team can be in the playoffs. And if they're in the playoffs, right? If they're in the playoffs and Chet is averaging, say, 15 points per game, 12 rebounds per game, call it 1 or 2 assists. Like, I don't care how many assists he averages, really. Say a steal and a half and 2 blocks a game. He's going to be right there in the Rookie of the Year conversation, because the Spurs aren't making the playoffs. Let me put that very clear. The Spurs, at best, are a 10 seed. At best. And that's what OKC was last year. So at best, the Spurs are the 10 seed. And obviously, we all think Vic's probably going to run away with Rookie of the Year. Scoot's not making the playoffs with the Trailblazers. And Brandon Miller sure as heck ain't making it with the Hornets. So if we're looking at the top 3 picks in this draft, none of them are going to have that win percentage throughout the regular season that Chet is going to have with the Thunder. And if he's putting up those type of numbers as a rookie, why would he not be top 3 in the conversation? And why can't he win it for them? Now, like I said, I think this team is going to be super fun to watch. Obviously, I'm going to be watching them more this year than I did last year, and I'm sure many fans are as well. But let me know, do you think Chet can win Rookie of the Year? Do you think Chet can win an MVP eventually, or Defensive Player of the Year? And who on this team that I didn't talk a ton about do you think will surprise the league? Obviously, there's a ton of young guys on this team. They no longer have Darius Bazley, so we'll see how he does elsewhere. But like Jeremiah Robinson Earl's been a staple. He's only 22 years old here. Isaiah Joe's only 21, etc. I mean, really, I didn't give a lot of love to some of these younger guys, but I mean, for all I know, Ousmane Dieng could average 20 this year and be a most improved player. Like, who knows, right? And that's the crazy thing about this team, is there's that much potential on the bench, and they have like 50 picks in the next 5 years. So yeah, let me know what you guys think down in the comments down below. Appreciate everybody watching. Make sure you guys drop a like and subscribe for more. And yeah, I'll catch y'all next time. Peace out, guys.